Cool. The man, the
Nice.
myth, the legend of
We're
John
we're
Yuen.
talking about we're talking about Uncle David Weck, right? I
Of
saw
course,
he's on the
yeah.
call.
He's on the call, watching over us as always. Uncle
Oh,
Weck.
I feel safer already.
I, do, I feel more anxiety currently.
Oh man, when was the last time you were at the WEC lab?
Last week, I think. I've been going in pretty often because it's so close,
Yeah.
so self-centered. Weck is. He just no shame, third person, knowingly. I love it. You know, no fucks given. Oh, the Weck.
I
And
love it.
yeah, yeah. All right, no, Weck, we're not talking about you anymore. This is about John and what his
Can
life
can we
is.
schedule an IG live chat where we just talk about David Weck? Like
It's he's
flow
a
charts and everything.
virus. He's a virus in the matrix because people are already doing this. You know. Um, all right, later, Weck.
David Weck is the virus in the algorithm.
He really is, and it's fascinating to watch. Um,
Yeah,
fascinating. I wonder
it is.
sometimes if it's done purposely or if it's just the perfect storm. I think about that like with Trump too. Like, did
Yeah.
he somehow try to game it, or was that just he's just walking blindly and the algorithm
Don't know. I
picked him
mean,
up? So
if it is a product of a conscious strategy, then I would that's the kind of intellect that scares me.
mm,
People can get away with that when it seems as though it's just a spawn of chaos.
yeah, I mean, I think I read somewhere that 42 of our presidents were in the U.S. were psychopaths, um, and it's like you have to have that in order to get to the top and have that
Water in the desert.
charisma. Yeah.
Oh man.
Is Wex still
Yeah,
here?
well, I think you need that.
So, as someone who has that and has the psychopath traits, passed
Mhm.
all the tests, what is that? What is that like? Do you think it is it a burden? Is it a gift? Have you learned to control it?
I mean, if you can control it, if you're not, if it holds dominion over you to the extent where you feel like everything you do has to be of a grand design, then I think it might, encumber you. It might feel like it, you know, tears you and wears you down. But if you can could control it, that must be very liberating.
You're talking from firsthand experience right now.
Yeah, well, I haven't decided whether or not I'm a psychopath or a high functioning sociopath. We've talked about this.
Mm. Yeah,
But
that's true.
100% liberation.
This is Weck taking over our conversation. It's G, and it's nothing but love. It's like the greatest.
Yeah,
It's the greatest thing ever.
yeah.
Oh.
We're just peripheral nodes in the algorithm, and right now, David Weck, as he's saying, is taking under, not over,
mm, mm.
infecting us in the most loving way with this virus.
And I like to bring up the algorithm
Please
because I
do.
know you posted Pharrell infiltrated your algorithm and
Yeah.
that part, but you
Hmm.
said even before you wonder about the um, power it has over people and their decisions.
Mm.
So do you want to talk about maybe some concerns of where that's headed? Because we're going a lot deeper, especially as you know, Google and these search engines, even though Facebook and everything else, they've actually passed laws on collecting information and putting people in algorithms. So there's a fight going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think there are two different types of algorithms. One is digital and the other one is genetic. Then we have to kind of dive into the topic, or we have to acknowledge the topic of free will as well if we're going to talk about the algorithm. You get exposed to, and yeah, you get exposed to a certain type of digital algorithm every single day if you're watching this live conversation, or if you're a part of it, then you have to be affected by it. But you're also affected by another type of algorithm, which is based off of your genetic disposition. You are way more than your conscious self. You get affected by your genetic makeup and aspects of your environment that you're not even aware of. And I think that we have this idea that everything that is man-made, especially after the Industrial Revolution, is, you know, malicious. It has a negative consequence because someone is harvesting the fruits of that man-made thing. And in this case, the algorithm, I think a lot of people fear it because it's man-made, and we feel like we're kind of being exploited. And that's why it's a topic that we converse about and we discuss, because it feels like somebody else and something else has control over us. But if we really think about it, how is it any different than a genetic disposition? Genes are also created for, you know, harvesting fruits, so to speak.
And yeah, John, I see it as the digital algorithm, which we're talking about, which is man-made. But the cultural social algorithm, which we follow, the genetic one. And then there's like the cosmic algorithm that spun, you know, the planets, the solar systems, the laws of physics and nature. Like at every level, it's almost like a fractal of this code. And it's funny that we're kind of creating our own, and now it's being going through the machine. But yeah, I think we've always been talking about this thing running us unconsciously throughout time.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of concerns I have. I mean, we talk about the need for transparency when it comes to the digital internet algorithm, but if that is something that we want to focus on, then we also have to focus on the lack of transparency in all the other algorithms, and it's kind of up to us to try to understand them better. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know how this is going to affect. I mean, I don't know how it is affecting our social and cultural lives. The only thing I know that is that I get in touch with a lot of cool people. I get exposed to a lot of bullshit products, but I also get to know really, really cool individuals that I've made friendships with them. I'm in a relationship with a person I met through the algorithm. I made a business or created a business with a person I met through the algorithm.
Yeah. If
so far, so good.
If it weren't for that, and I never reached out and talked to you, and you never had the idea of OMU and invited me in, and just that alone, that node of me connecting with you over a screen, it changed my life and the trajectory. And I think about every time that's happened, Keith, in here, like even a phrase or a word or a passing totally changes who you are, where you're going. It is a race to machine supremacy. Yeah. But I was thinking about that in the car right here. Like even my ancestors going back thousands of generations, one man meeting one woman, one decision they made, the weather, these little things that I couldn't have been here, or maybe the course of history would be changed. It seems a lot less like determinism and more like destiny the more I think about it.
Mm.
But who knows? That could just be the only way to stay sane and give it a story. But it's fascinating to think about.
With everything that's happening, it's hard to uh, it, if you want to rationalize anything that's happening at all, destiny is, destiny does come to mind.
Mhm.
If you're gonna try to process absolutely everything else that is going on, then I don't think you can rationalize that. It's too it's too complex. I'm not smart enough.
Mm.
But as David Weck says, a butterfly flaps its wings and far across the world. Dot dot dot.
The
Who is
hurricane.
the butterfly? That's the question.
Yeah. Who is the butterfly? Shoot.
Commence the
Commence the
merge.
merge. And yeah, when you say that, we laugh and we all kind of know it's around the corner though, right? And we already have merged. We have this
Mhm.
portal in our hands that links us to all this information, knowledge, other people. It's pretty much an extension of us. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, play what if.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's we are already androids, and we I mean, I wonder how many people's mindset are affected by the thought. I wonder how my life, my real life, affects my digital life, as opposed to I wonder how my digital life affects my personal life. Because I mean, we do lots of we have lots of conversations about how our social media life can have an impact on us personally, psychologically, socially, our health. But I think that most, subconsciously, a lot of us think about how do my real time actions, my real world actions, affect my digital avatar, and that's the priority. And sometimes I ended
Mm,
up in that mindset myself, and that then I become scary of the droid within.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, I've almost reverse, like retroactively looked at my avatar on social media and what I was saying, the
Hmm.
um, the narratives I was saying, the information, the little nuances, and I'm like, I didn't know how I changed outside until I looked back. I was like, well, that
Hmm.
was me then, and it's a cool little timeline, a little scrapbook journal
It is. It
of your
is.
life,
I mean,
you know.
it's just like a diary, except that you're allowing other people to read it, you know?
Yeah, it's a highly edited, revised diary.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
It's going to be exciting to see how, like, I mean, the people I get exposed to on social media and the people I relate to on social media, I mean, it's such a small selection. Uh, a very small group of people compared to everyone who is on social media, and I wonder like
mhm.
how where are where the direction is going. I have my idea based on the people that I follow and the people that follow me, but at large, which direction are we going?
Mm. I think it'd be wrong to say a good or bad direction, but it's
Mm,
definitely going somewhere.
yeah.
Um, I think anything you could say that's this powerful tool which could be used to connect to people, to share, all the good is gonna have the bad with it. Can be used for
Hmm.
addiction, can be used for manipulation. Um, and then the suicide rate amongst teens has gone up. They think, and it's linked to social media and the phone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but the one thread that's always there, no matter what, is going to be personal responsibility. So can we use this to as a form to grow ourselves, to help and grow our community? It all comes back to us, I think. So
Yeah, and we are by. to a very large extent the people that we surround ourselves with. And a part of the responsibility is to choose who you wish to include in your social media sphere. And there are things you can do and there are things you can't do. And not everything is under your control. But I do think that there are many benefits to social media, health-wise and mental health-wise. It's just that we haven't, it's like a brand new tool. It's like all of a sudden, if you gave 100,000 cavemen flamethrowers, they could use it very responsibly or responsibly. They could actually make something good out of it. But we're not there yet. You know, we need time to understand how we can use flame for other things than setting each other on fire or self-immolation.
It's the first thing I would do is set people on fire if I were a caveman with a flamethrower.
I was sure you were going to say I set myself on fire.
Yeah, just end this. Man, that's a thought. And then again, to think that all the benefits we have of this order, law, society were built on top of killing many people in fear and subjecting people, to have the opportunity to have this mercy and democracy, whatever you want to call it, was built on war.
It is true. And
so that's what the machines will do to us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also think that a lot of the conflict that we're talking about now is the conflict within a person. And social media is a very good way of bringing the spotlight to that topic. It's a type of conflict that, like, if we're going to talk about taboos, the greatest taboo ever is, you know, mental health, or struggling or not being happy despite that you have everything that you need, or anxiety, depression, psychosis, all these sorts of things, existential anxiety, etc. And I think there are a few tools that are as effective as social media when it comes to talking about this. So, like you said, a lot of the benefits that we enjoy today are the products of a war or a conflict, and I think that we can enjoy a lot of new resources or new solutions if we just allow conflict to happen on social media, not just between individuals, but in individuals as well.
Yeah, read through some of this.
Yeah. Let's see. And David Weck is on a roll.
Oh. The Book of Weck.
We have to land on good. It's that simple. It is.
Yeah, then I think the issue we're having is people are always going to disagree what good is, you know, because everything is bounded with good and bad potential possibility, and there's always going to be that divide. That's what I see with the algorithm. From a business, I mean, if we want to go into the bad, which I think people are talking about, the business aspect of targeting people, taking their information. I almost feel like that's a first world, like, wealthy people's problem that they have. If you're an entrepreneur trying to make it, and you have something that with anonymity can take all these people's data, target who you want, which is only a select few, to reach them and give them a service you think you could provide, I see that as growing and connecting and helping the mom and pop entrepreneurs more than the Nike brands, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is, it's transparent enough so that we get to be pissed off about it or worry about it. It's just transparent enough. If we think about other larger companies that focus more not on, you know, call to actions or chasing leads or finding information in individuals, but we talk about brands like Coca-Cola, Apple, etc., etc. The way they use branding is way less transparent. They have such a huge amount of resources that they can kind of put their logo and their name, their brand into your mind subconsciously on a daily basis, and you're not even aware of it. And they don't care about what kind of customer you are. They don't care about what your needs are. They don't care about which age group, which demographic you're from. The only thing they want to is to make sure that you remember their name. And with social media and being able to target certain type of groups, finding a niche, that means that you're going to find niche providers. And these niche providers, you'll have a much more personal relationship with them. It's much easier to say no to something that you're aware of, So I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing that people have my information. Sure, it can be a bit scary, but at least in the EU, we have the right to say you have to remove all the information you have on me within 24 hours, and that's your responsibility. So if you don't want people to have your information, you can, hold them accountable if you hold yourself accountable.
Mm, mm. Do you know anyone who drinks Pepsi or Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
Mm.
You don't?
I don't know. I know maybe two people personally, to be honest. And they're more of a older generation.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always that counterculture to, especially now, it's not cool to be these big name brand things. I think they see them as the establishment authority. And I like that we're looking for these hipster small things to support, because it does relate to our identity. And that goes back to the algorithm, goes back to who are the people that resonates with us. And it's hard to connect to a big corporation like Coca-Cola or Nike.
Yeah. Did you have a problem with authority growing up?
Yeah. I've had a distrust for authority, like a lot of my peers, definitely.
It's interesting to see how the difference there when you compare people who come from different countries who are under different types of rule. Like here in Norway, like people trust the establishment, and I'm not saying that they're naive or stupid to do so. Not at all. I'm not saying that it's stupid to distrust the establishment either. It's just interesting to see how, growing up in various parts of the world, change your relationship to something that is bigger than you and has control over you, and that is so complex that you can't necessarily understand it. The authority, the establishment, those things can be just as complex as, the more vague things we're talking about, like the algorithm.
Yeah, it's funny here in the States, I guess part of the social algorithm, what I've seen, a trend is young people, college age people tend to be anti government and establishment. And then I think around my age group, I've seen a lot of them turn to more libertarian. And then in the older population, I see very conservative. And it's like a shift of your values or how you view these establishments as something you're fighting against, to something that you want to get behind for safety.
Yeah.
It's an amazing shift of perspective throughout life. Yeah,
it is. And it brings us to the question that Oscar asks here. Do you think that is because of a difference in culture or a difference in establishment? Like here we can see three different age groups who relate to the establishment in different ways. Do you think that's because of how the establishment has changed, or because of the difference in culture?
Well, Reem
In
here is saying it's the same for her.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it's global.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think.
Do you see that in Norway?
Yeah, I do. Younger people are definitely more skeptical to the establishment, and I think there are many different reasons for it, I'm sure, but one reason that comes to mind is the older generation. They have probably gotten to see the benefits of the
Hmm.
establishment, all the hidden good stuff, the benefits that come with, being to a certain extent under that type of rule, but at the same time, they probably felt that they had more of an impact on that rule. Um, so I think that a big reason why so many of us are contrarians or anti-establishment is because we don't see the benefits. It's
Hmm.
kind of like growing up with a smartphone in your hand. You don't understand how magical it is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it's perfect. The governments are usually not perfect in any sort of way, but they do bring a lot of good things that we
Hmm.
take for granted, and we can't see it because we grew up with those smartphones.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I even see this on the level of relating to the generation of your parents before you, which is
Mm,
kind of a mini government when you're growing up, and
yeah.
you reach that teen angst age where you know everything, and you say, "Oh, they don't get it," and you try to rebel. Um,
Mm,
and then now I'm at the point where I'm like, "Oh fuck, I have a kid now." I'm like, I get it, because now I could see myself. I could relate more, I guess. I guess it's
yeah.
just an age gap, but it's like, oh man, now I'm in that spot. And that's weird growing up as an adult to think, now I'm here in the spot to make decisions for the future. Like
Mm,
I understand that now. And it's
mm,
different than being um, a youth thinking I would do this, let's change this until you
mm,
have that responsibility on your shoulders.
yeah.
Um, so I don't think words, because people have thought about this for a while and words aren't helping. I think it's just time. Time is the
Yeah.
one element that changes perspective the most.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't necessarily, if you aren't aware of your responsibility or your impact on the world, um, the easiest way of making sure that you feel that you're making a difference is to go against something that is the norm, because then you're gonna meet an opposition, and you need to clash. You need that turmoil.
Mm.
Uh, let's see here. Uh, yeah, Oscar says maybe connected to the oh, wait. Maybe, God damn it. Maybe connected to the expansion of communication and negativity bias, more leaks, doubt, fear, distrust against the establishment spreads faster and easier. Yeah, like in regards to social media, I think so.
Hmm.
It's much easier to appeal to someone's um, emotions through a screen, I think, because
Yeah,
it's like tiny drips all the time.
I think voicing the negativity you have and then um, coalescing with others and then creating an echo chamber and magnifying that concern is greater than ever. but I think that's just because you have a loudspeaker. But people were always divided and always saying the same things. I mean, no matter how far back you go, people like, we've never been this divided. But now we
Yeah.
could just voice it on a screen to everyone else and get together and say it. So I don't know if we've changed so much as like we just hear it's louder now, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I don't think I don't think social media in itself has made us worse listeners.
Because back in the day,
I think
people used to shoot each other because of these divides. Now we're just annoying on the internet.
constant drips of annoyance, which, I mean, I guess one of the downsides is that experiencing the consequence of your words or your actions on the internet, the consequences are smaller, and the impact is larger because it's there's more of a compounding factor. I think it's like these tiny drips all the time.
Mm, yeah.
By the way, I asked in my story if people had some things they wanted us to discuss during our small hour of narcissism, and
Well,
I've
is the
written
future of humanity not enough, John? Did they want to learn about movement?
not too many movement related questions actually.
Oh, thank God.
But we got one question, which was just one word, and that was psilocybin, and that was it.
Mm.
Now I know that you answered in one story not too long ago which supplements do you use, was a question, and you answered it was, what was it, coffee, food, and psilocybin?
Yeah.
Or great.
I mean, supplements is a weird word because everything is food stuff. Everything
Mm-hmm.
is chemical interactions with your body.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a food supplement drug? Is maybe just a spectrum, I would say.
Yeah.
So it felt weird writing that because I'm like, well, it's all food.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a whole food diet. Mushrooms could just be part of that. Coffee might be one of the most processed things on that list. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, psilocybin, in that context of that question I was answering, really is kind of in the supplement food form at the dose I'm saying it, which is microdose. So it is maybe less psychoactive than a strong cup of coffee, definitely.
Mm.
But the benefits, I would say, are greater. And I consider that, I know people say things are superfoods, which I hate. This is a real superfood. Psychoactive drugs are superfoods if you want to label them that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, like, did you do an experiment with psilocybin? I know that you did experiments with caffeine and what else? Caffeine, psilocybin,
Cannabis,
cannabis,
alcohol. Yeah.
alcohol. And you noticed the greatest amount of benefits during the psilocybin experiment.
Yeah, coffee and psilocybin. But they were kind of two different types of benefits.
Okay.
Coffee, the biggest benefit was respiration, breathing, did breath holds. That was my record time. So that helped on the endurance part.
Mm.
Psilocybin helped on the skill, the coordination, the intention, and it had a little bit of stimulant property to it. But yeah, alcohol not good, even though power increased in one
Yeah.
test. Cannabis was horrible. I think I overdid it though. Maybe at a microdose, cannabis could help, especially with stretching. In the yoga sense of
Mm.
Um, when I did the forward fold test on
Mhm.
cannabis, I got lower and I felt a big stretch through my back, lower back.
Mm.
And I kind of just was sinking into it. But when I did the psilocybin and I went even further, I didn't feel a stretch in my lower back. I was like cramping in the um, in my abs. I was getting a further active compression, and I was like sore the next day. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is interesting. Maybe if I were taking a yoga class or going in to get a massage, I might cannabis might be better. But if you're
Mm.
doing some sort of gymnastics, um, closing in, loaded mobility, stuff like that,
Mm.
I think psilocybin will actually help you train that better, uh, so you could have a more permanent, progressive change
Mm.
eventually. So they're interesting as training tools. I think underrated, all these substances.
That's interesting. What do you think that you actively started to there was more voluntary action when you used psilocybin?
Um, I think the biggest opportunity it gives you is the de-patterning. So I found the other PRs I got were going out of my normal kind of what I would tense and shift to and just exploring more.
Mm.
So I did a hold with the pec stick. So it's like I think it goes up to 100 kgs of tension. So you're squeezing it, and I would go for a walk. And I tested this every week, and I would always get around the same time. On the psilocybin, I was going, and I found myself going, moving, and I found a easier place to hold it. And I went 2 minutes longer. Huge PR.
Oh
And that
shit.
didn't, I didn't have a structural change, or I didn't get stronger, but I figured out an easier, more efficient way to do it. And I saw
Mm.
that carrying over to everything. So even that forward fold, it's like, I want to stretch further. What do I have to do to get there? Um,
Oh, it's interesting.
yeah, so I think it's more of a de-patterning and openness to holding a lot of variables and options in your mind, and the ability to see more options, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mm. I like that you use the word de-patterning because whenever we say repatterning, it's like this. It gives this very peaceful, serene image that the various nodes just gets shifted just a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
The neural network just gets pushed, nudged in a gentle position. But de-patterning, it sounds like more destructive, which I like. You need to destroy things to build new
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah, especially when a lot of the patterns we hold are unconscious. We're not
Yeah.
even aware of them.
Mm.
And that's thought patterns, that's perception, that's awareness, everything. You don't
Did you
know.
notice?
Sorry.
Did you notice any uh, change when it came to like discomfort? I don't know if you had any. I know that your hip has been painful. I don't know
I
how
had
to
a hip
experience
injury.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you notice any difference after you started using psilocybin when it comes to pain? Because that is also very much decided upon
Hmm.
based on patterns.
Hmm. I want to say yes, but there's too many variables to credit psilocybin. I'm sure
Mm.
it's part of the piece, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, over the past couple of years, I've improved my kind of hip function and some issues I've been having, and it has been from, I guess, a deep patterning and changing tensions and shifts. I'm sure some of that is related to psilocybin, but it might just be a small piece of the puzzle.
Mm. Yeah.
In a rehab setting,
Yeah.
I think it would help a lot, because a lot of, especially after injuries or trauma, a lot of that tension, that neurological tension, is just protective, you know,
Yeah.
unconsciously protective. And
Hmm.
I believe it stems back to an emotional part of the trauma, not just structural. Yeah, there's scar tissue, blah, blah, blah. But I think it goes deeper than that, especially when the rehab's done, but you still have these protective mechanisms and patterns. So I
Mm.
wonder that element of it, this psychological element, if that could be targeted through maybe that medicine and in conjunction with therapy, uh, I would just love to see it. Can't say for sure what would happen, but
Mm. Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. I mean, they're doing lots of things with with uh, cannabis now, but I don't know if they're doing any type of research uh, with psilocybin as it pertains to pain. But that'd be pretty interesting based on what you're saying.
yeah, because I feel like people are already doing that kind of work with, if you go into the alternative realm of crystals and shit, you know,
Yeah.
um, they know that the emotion and the mind and the body are connected, but it's just the talk therapy and acupuncture, all these other things, these active placebos, I guess we could call
Hmm.
it, that do have some
Hmm.
merit. It's just hit or miss, you know. I don't know how. I think the psilocybin is a better way to, because that's the most active placebo. It really depends on your set and setting, your intention, how you're, you know, where you're putting that energy. So I think
Hmm.
that could take those practices that are touching upon that, but I don't think the rate of success is that high. I think maybe if they integrate that, it could increase that rate of success. If we're dealing with the nervous system as
Yeah.
the tool of change.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I think when it comes to anything that is psychoactive, we haven't done enough research, especially in regards to pain. Um, and I mean, if we allow ourselves to speculate based on the results that we've seen so far in regards to, what you call the deep patterning, I would assume that it can have an impact, at least on chronic pain, to a pretty substantial degree.
Yeah, because you'd agree, I think chronic pain, a big part of that is perception.
Yeah.
Perception of the pain, of what's causing the pain of your own body. Is this piece of me bad? Is this movement I'm going into bad for me? Is it hurting me?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've had experiences where in a session, in a movement, they've shifted their perception of it and their relationship to it, and the pain stopped.
Hmm.
But that's a very hard thing to do, and it is kind of all up to them to change that perception. Um, so anything that could, I guess, facilitate or aid in that is a powerful tool. And for a lot of people, the talking about it, maybe the talk therapy route, isn't
Hmm.
isn't uh, helpful for a lot of people, especially men.
Yeah, you have to be. I don't like to say that you have to be open to it, because that it seems as though every person should be the same. The only way they would process information the right way is by having a verbal exchange with a therapist, and there are so many other ways of rerouting one's neural network, or depatterning or repatterning. And like you said, like for a lot of guys, the talk therapy, it doesn't work. You need an experience, and that's
Mm.
not the kind of experience you want. You might want a physical or emotional experience that you don't necessarily have to share to the world.
That's exactly, yeah. Because when we
Yeah.
talk about it, we could justify, we can rationalize over the issue.
Yeah.
Like, I know that wasn't my fault when I was a child. Yeah. But the feeling is still there. You didn't change shit, you know. That's what you have to tap into. The
Yeah.
kind of felt experience. And the
Yeah.
words are we're too clever for that shit. Yeah.
It's true. We speaking of we're too clever for that shit. I have another question for you.
Oh my God.
And that is another one of your the things you've been working on. And this was a question from Oscar from OMU, and he wondered about the potential of this voluntary contraction, the intention, the type of chi torque, I guess, physical shadow work that you've been doing. Because right now you're focusing a lot on these contractions and making. Well, I'm not sure. I'm to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what your intention is, but
You're the first person to say that, John.
Thank you.
Everyone else has told me what it is.
Yeah,
Qigong or something.
harnessing the chi. What if it is a medium for something? What are you trying to pass through that medium?
Yeah, I think it's, simply put, mind-muscle connection. Because one thing that never started not to sit well with me was the idea of irradiation. And I think we talked about this during my unit in OMU, where it's just like, just squeeze. And it's like, but during a dynamic movement, you're squeezing with a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very different. You could flex and squeeze as hard as you can, your lats in one kind of area of muscles with one direction, and then compress and squeeze another one, really without changing shape.
Yeah.
And I think trying to help people, because we see do this drill or this exercise or this movement, some people will improve with it, some people it will help, others people it doesn't help. And I'm thinking, what's fundamental to that? Some people might say joint ranges of motion where you can move, but I think tension is what we're not articulating to why some people succeed and feel better doing things and other people don't. Because I think these people who are naturally athletic and excel at things, they can harness their tension very well. And it's a language that instead of expressing that, they express, well, just do this. They're feeling the tension, but they're explaining a movement. So looking back at like the old school strongman, Maxick, all these people, their daily routines were, it was almost like posing, bodybuilding. They would flex, without, moving into positions. They would be able to create massive amounts of tension throughout their body. And I think that's the best set of options you can get. Bruce Lee used to fucking do that shit all the time. And I think we're going away from that into more just you need a certain type of movement, which I don't think carries over necessarily to power and force and load.
Yeah, and especially if you're only able to create that type of tension in what we usually focus on, which would be the end range of motion. It becomes you have a very limited vocabulary or a spectrum for tension because it's only at the end range.
And it's the easiest place.
Yeah. I actually started doing a bit more tension work today. Like I have like this whole morning ritual that I go through every morning, and one segment of the ritual is just mobilization. I don't call it mobility work. It's just mobilize the joints in various ways. And I've been working with different shapes, focusing on more the superficial framework of things. But today I actually started working more with the tension and basically to see if I can maintain the same amount of tension throughout the range of motion. And man, it's hard, but it's very it's very pleasant work. Like I really enjoy the feeling, and it allows you to feel stronger. Because there's a thing, like when you focus on tension and ranges of motion, you associate tension with weakness because you are only harnessing that tension in the position where you are at your weakest, right? So your ability to use this feeling and the action of contracting your muscles as much as you can only happens when you are at your weakest. And I think having that clear association, like a physical sensory cue, having that available, and when you're closer to your, just like a normal anatomical starting position, the Vitruvian man position, I think that can do a lot of cool things. I'm excited to see. I'm gonna start doing it like every 5 days or so.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But so far, so good. It felt good.
I'm also interested in, unless you're thinking of making this a product, which I think would be awesome. Do you want to talk about what your morning routine looks like?
Yeah, sure. Morning routine. First thing I do is to make myself a cup of coffee and my girlfriend a cup of tea. That happens every day. And as you know, I'm just shaking off the dust of my brain, which has just gone through very pleasant dreams. We've talked about this. Then I boil my dream catcher. Now I have a 10-minute mobility or mobilization program. So then the rule is that I just have to move every joint, and I try to move it in ways that feels as challenging as it feels comforting, but I always try to mobilize it in new ways. So I try to find a position where I have a hard time understanding which position I'm in, if that makes sense. And that can change from day to day. And after that, I have what I call my retirement plan. These are the things that I want to be able to do when I'm 80 years old. And it's very simple stuff. It's like I want to be able to do 25 squats, 20 push-ups. I want to be able to do 15, 25 squat, 20 push-ups, 15 hinges, like single leg RDLs without losing balance, 10 pull-ups. Those are the types of things I want to do when I'm old.
Wow, that's very cool. Retirement plan.
Yeah. I think it helps because it keeps you sane. Our goals, even though we think of them as long-term goals, they're very not they're not sustainable. We know this. We won't be able to do the things that we do now when we're 80 or 85. But that, I think, is possible. 25 squats, sure. 20 push-ups, hell yeah. If I can do that like 2 hours before I end up on my deathbed, I'll be a very happy person and healthy person. And after that, 10 minutes of meditation, which is really nothing fancy. Just sit for 10 minutes and breathe and try to focus on that. And then I write down what I did the day before. So, and I try to focus on small details that I was able to pay attention to. And at the very end, I write 3 things that I like or that I'm grateful for or that I'd like to experience again. And that's basically it. After that, I'm pretty much ready to go. And now for the past 2 weeks, I've added on reading as well. So I just read like for 10 minutes just to keep that habit going. Make sure that it feels like a natural part of my day.
So 2 questions. One, have you felt a difference in your day and your quality of life since doing this practice?
So much. It's, how every single Navy SEAL talks about the importance of making your bed as soon as you wake up. because it kind of puts you in that productive mood, the sensation of having done something of importance that day, and that gives you momentum for the rest of your day. I I feel more motivated to get out of bed. That's one thing. I feel like it gives me momentum, not only productivity wise, but like self-care wise. Um, I get to focus on my memory, which is what the journaling is for. I get to focus on my ability to focus, which is what meditation is for. And meditation also allows me to focus on, kind of distancing myself from my ego. Mobilizing is like it's one of my favorite things to do, just because it's very rare that we get to move our bodies without searching for some kind of limiting factor. Usually when we decide to move a body part that isn't involved in everyday activities like walking, picking up stuff, or doing the dishes, uh, whenever we do something that we associate with functional movement or practical movement, we always go to the far end of the spectrum. You have to exhaust some sort of physical resource. And I don't think, even though I think it's very healthy to challenge yourself like that on a daily basis, if your only experience with movement as a health benefit is to deplete your resources, then at some point you're going to deplete them so much that you can't recover the way you would want to. So just 10 minutes of mobilization does wonders. It really makes me feel like I can kind of put my mind back into my body and my body on my mind, and it just feels good. And the retirement plan, I don't know, like it's just something that I do now. It's like brushing my teeth.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to know you could do something tomorrow is to be able to do it today.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
somewhere in between it gets lost. So
Yeah,
that's genius.
yeah. It's I mean, I always kind of second guess my retirement plan. Sometimes I feel like pulling it down a notch, and then I feel like making it a bit more extreme. But so far so good.
Mm.
It kind of gives me hope for my retirement.
Okay. Second question.
Mm.
What is the book you're reading currently?
I'm reading like 3 books now. One is called 0 to 1, and it's about it's kind of a book on startups, but it's much more an analysis of global markets, the difference between globalization and technology. Like the gist of the book is this: like you can either progress along a vertical line or a horizontal line. Now, we have for the past 30, 40 years progressed a lot on this vertical line, which is technology. We have created new solutions that allow us to be blue.
Yeah, sorry, man. Our hour limit was up.
All right, no worries, man.
But you're talking about the vertical axis
Yeah,
of technology.
yeah. So basically, we could like the theme of the book is you can either focus on globalization, which is to spread the current technology to as many people as possible, or we can
Hmm.
focus on improving technology. And the so far one very interesting theme is if we try to spread current technology, the world won't be able to handle it. You would have to you can't focus on globalization alone. You need to improve technology um, so that we get technology of a nature that is sustainable if everyone were to have it or take use of it.
Mm,
So that's basically
that's interesting.
it. Yeah, it's a interesting topic. Um, and another book is well, basically it's a marketing strategy book because I need to focus more on that, as you know. but it's kind of it's
Yeah.
cool because what you're basically what marketing or what this book talks about when it comes to marketing is basically what is your message, you know, and how can you convey your message in an elegant way that is not only important to you, but you make it important for other people. Um, so that's cool. And the last book is a book on timing, like the circadian rhythm, how we make, how, you know, your decision process, your decision making process, and your cognitive abilities change throughout the day.
Mm.
So it's cool. It's interesting.
I knew you were a three booker. You just got to switch from one to the other one when it gets boring, right?
Yeah, very much so. But I don't really read to finish books, even though I kind of have the feeling that I should, because that's what society tells me. But I'm more interested in reading things that harmonize with me at any given time. So like right now, I want to understand my message better. So that's why I'm reading marketing. I want to understand how, you know, when I should make certain decisions throughout the day. So that's why I'm reading on timing. And yeah, I just read whatever nurtures the soul and
Yeah,
challenges the mind.
that's good. I
What about
like
yourself?
to,
What do you?
I'm reading one book, and I always purchase a second book and have it in queue. So I force myself to be miserable and rush through the book I'm reading to get to it. So I just end up punishing myself in the end, and I don't retain the knowledge. But I'm reading Dune, which is a science
Oh,
fiction book.
yeah.
Uh, Great book, a lot of alchemical wisdom within the
Oh,
pages.
a lot of sound bites in you. A lot of
Yeah,
good quotes.
yeah, a lot of good quotes. And then I just finished How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan.
Yeah.
Great
Do you like
book.
it?
Eh, eh.
Eh.
It's a good book for people who are unfamiliar personally with psychedelic use
Hmm.
because he's coming in as a critic and a skeptic.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's very distrusting of the psychedelic community. And then he
Mm.
experiences the chemicals. He goes into the therapies and the ceremonies, and at the end, well, now he's an advocate of psychedelics. But it's good to see him very cautious of the rhetoric you hear in the hippie circles and everything.
Hmm.
So I think for people outside, it's a worthwhile book to read. But at the end, I was like, yeah, I don't need it validated. I, um,
No, it's like it'll be a good book for you to, you know, go through if you wanted to recommend a book for me if you were to try to convince me to try microdosing.
oh yeah, I mean, if you were ever interested, which I don't know if you are, it's a good, it's a, it's actually goes through the history of the um, the LSD, and it's the history part is fascinating. The studies are fascinating. Like
Hmm.
over 50,000 studies were done in the 50s and 60s on LSD, and all these, you know, benefits, and it was better than the antidepressants that came after. It's better than any type of therapy. Bill Walsh, the creator of AA, actually got sober from LSD and tried to incorporate it into AA, but they wouldn't allow it. So I was like, whoa, the research is there. Like there's so much. But it was shut
Those
down
early days,
because of the damn counterculture and hippies.
the
But
studies they did on that during that time, in that era, that was a golden age for studies. You know,
oh yeah.
yeah. They had to write things down. Didn't have like a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I'm also, you know, I'm fascinated on the studies that the Nazis did as well, because they did a lot of horrible things, but they just, whatever they wanted to know, whatever you could not conceivably get past, because it's a crime against humanity, they wanted to know. And if you look at what they're digging into, it was weird shit, a lot of occultism, a lot of weird things, they went into Tibetan Buddhism, a lot. They thought there was something there. So it's fascinating. But yeah, I wonder if we can create a simulation where we just test everything we want without any moral obligations. And then with those people in the simulation, would that be a crime against their experience? Would they be?
What would you like to test? What would you test if you had that kind of simulation program readily available for you?
I would like to see how much genetics really plays a role. If you could make the same person, identical genetically, biologically, and put them in different scenarios and see how much that alters their decision making.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be cool if you could do you could clone one test subject 100 times and just put them through the ringer. I think would either need a lot of psychoactive substances or trauma.
Yeah, dude, and that's something exciting, because I think soon we will be doing a lot of experiments with psychoactive substances. But I think we're gonna have to change the scientific method, because with a lot of these things, it's not about the chemical interaction on the physical level. It's about the emotional, it's about the change in perception and perspective shift, which is subjective. So it's like, can that be something you test, something subjective? It's like we said, it's pretty much going into the active placebo. But I think that's the future of these medicines.
Oh yeah, there's a drug cabinet in the brain that we haven't gotten to exploit yet.
Oh, someone said Three Identical Strangers, and that's a good documentary. If you guys check it out on Netflix, I think.
Oh, I need to write that down. I haven't seen that.
Yes. Dude, so I'll give you just the intro. It's it's this one guy who I think he was in college. He saw something in the newspaper, or no, he went to a college dorm room, and everyone on the campus was high-fiving him, calling him by another name, and they're like, they must think why are these people coming up to me? And then someone comes in and was like, you're not this person. And he's like, no. And they're like, what the hell, you look exactly like him. So they call this other guy, and they found out that they met and they were identical twins, but they didn't know it. They were both adopted. So they were on the news as 20 years later, they found their, brother, their identical twin. Another person saw this and saw it looked exactly like their friend. So they contacted him, and then they all met, and it's these three identical twins who were separated at birth. All of them leading very different lives, but they all had two parents and a sister. And then come to find out, this adoption agency was paid to do this experiment with twins. And so they were all set up in similar family structures, but different levels of income. And they found out it wasn't just them, it was all these twins they did it to. But the study is actually closed. I forget the university. They won't allow it to be opened until a certain time, until everyone's dead who did the study.
Oh, wow.
Crazy shit. But I'd like to see what they found.
We need a countdown timer for that. For
Yeah.
those results to be released.
But it's amazing. All the three twins, their mannerisms, their likes, Um,
Mhm.
their relationships, all so similar, even though they grew up in completely different backgrounds.
Same with pain, man.
Mm,
Lower, uh, like lower back pain. Twins were raised in different parts of the world, not just different parts of the country, but different parts of the world, different interests, different physical experience with physical activity, get back pain at the same time in their lives.
whoa.
Yeah, like I think that one of the things that needs to change when it comes to pain is not the management of it. It's our perspective, our perception of pain.
Hmm.
We perceive pain as being an anomaly, an abnormality, and if it happens, then something is severely wrong. And in many cases, it is, yeah, but it is also a natural part of life.
John, it's the ancestral trauma that's passed down, you know? It needs to be healed.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary because, I mean, how many professionals, how many trainers, how many therapists are willing to talk about pain not as, something that they should be able to solve or prevent or mitigate based on their competency? Very few, because it kind of, you know, would you trust in a person who says, no, it's natural or it's a part of life? No, you want someone who gives you the solution, how to get rid of it or how to prevent it. But I think this is one of the reasons why musculoskeletal pain is such a big issue, is that we actually don't talk, we only talk about it as in terms of what is wrong with you, when we should talk about this pain thing. It might very well happen to you even though everything is as it should be. It might just be a natural part of life, and like with so many other things, it's not about preventing it or um, curing ourselves of it, but learning how to manage it first. And people's injury or pain management skills are are shit, mine
Mm,
included. You know, we panic. There
yeah.
is so much fear involved. Um, I mean, I think I mentioned it to you some time ago. You know, when the Western healthcare system was introduced to the Aboriginals in Australia, before that healthcare system and the terms they used was introduced to the Aboriginals, social anthropologists would come and visit and would ask, "Hey, do any of you have back pain?" And these Aboriginals, they go, "Well, of course, yes. Look where we live. We live in a barren wasteland. Like the things that we do every day are it's strenuous hard work. We don't necessarily get 8 hours of sleep every day, and we certainly don't get all of our vitamin K or B12. Yes, we have back pain." And then the social anthropologist asks, "Well, what do you do about it?" And they say, "Well, what do you think we do? We relax. We 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 sleep. We try not to stress out about it. It's gonna happen, but we relax. We allow it to. We try to heal the pain." And when they say heal the pain, that's not only physical. But then, of course, when the Western healthcare system gets introduced to these people who aren't aware of what, a disc herniation or an L5 is, as soon as those terms, those ideas about uh, disc protrusions, disc herniations, slip discs, lumbago, tight hip flexors, as soon as these terms are introduced to these people, what happens to the rate and the prevalence of lower back pain? It increases. Of course it does, because now all of a sudden it's not something that can be healed, it's something that must be cured, and that has a very specific, there's a very specific origin to it.
Mm,
That's not to say that, pain doesn't have specific reasons. It does. If you drop a 20-pound dumbbell on your foot, then the cause of your pain is very clear. And if you do something to a body part that that body part isn't ready for, then yes, there will be pain. But there's many other reasons as to why pain can appear. And our fallacy, our flaw when it comes to how we relate to it is to think that if it does appear, it has to have a very specific reason. In fact, it might just be written in your DNA that at some point in your life, you might experience some sort of pain.
Possibly.
Possibly. It's not a given. That's for sure.
I definitely, I think you're right. It's definitely perception, is linked to a lot of chronic pain. And a lot of therapists are just going at it from the structural manual part, which you'll see some improvements short term. And then there's people who go you just need to train the function of this part and you're dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And the success of that is around the same. It doesn't always fix what's going on. But I think what you said, I think there is something emotional. There is something about your perception of your body, your perception of movement. And I just think how we organize ourselves. And going back to the feeling of the body and I had an experience a while ago. It was during holotropic breathing, which is pretty psychedelic experience, but you're going deep into this breath, and it's a lot to do with the diaphragm and the gut, it's just opening. And I felt my body kind of tensioning towards one way with the hip. I had a big injury in a while back. And I was like, whoa, why is it doing that? And then I just changed, and I realized I was just holding tension in this one area, and I just kind of brought it back and let it go. And I was like, I've been doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
Even whether rotating this way or that way, I was doing it with a certain tension.
Yeah.
And this is before I even got into the idea of training torque and everything. And I think no amount of mechanical, physical work from someone could change that, because it was all, I was holding it all myself. And I didn't even know it was there. So that deep work, that inner work, I wonder if that is something to do with your DNA, if that's something that's passed down, if that's some energy that's goes beyond strictly the physical explanation. And I wonder if that could expand it to cultural things, to to emotional points in your life that cause that, because it's holding on to something, and it expresses physically. Where it stems, I have no idea.
No, but I think history shows us pretty well that we're not very good at dealing with trauma. Emotional, psychological, societal.
You know who I'm gonna go see, John?
What? Oh,
Gray
you're
Bear.
gonna
Gray
see
Bear.
Gray Bear?
I am.
That's cool. When?
I told myself I was this weekend. I was like, God, I gotta go see Gray Bear. I don't want to, but I need to. Yeah.
Reem wrote, because you didn't visit your dad.
I didn't. He told me to, and I didn't. Um,
Let's see what Gray Bear can do.
Paternal right side. Coincidence? I don't know. That is when the injury happened, by the way, John.
Yeah?
Right after my dad passed away.
So you need to die to visit him?
What's that?
You need to die to visit him?
Oh, I have to
The
travel into the underworld for my therapy
Gray
session.
Bear is introducing you to the final solution.
Drink of this Kool-Aid, my child. All your pains will go away.
Oh man, he's not wrong though.
But dude, I see because when my logical brain thinks about what he's doing, it's so ridiculous. But on the deeper levels, I could see how the words are just a tool to do some other type of work. And it opens me up to these alternative practices, because you could easily say it's bullshit from what they're saying and doing. But the felt experience and the perspective changes, maybe that's the best that culture had to work with, or maybe that's what's formed to address that component.
Yeah,
And I would love to have the Western version of that. And I think that's what psychedelics is, because it's actually, okay, it's a chemical we can measure and administer at a certain dosage. Maybe that's a good entryway to this type of work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, the experience you get, the narrative that you get exposed to, or that you get to place yourself into, I think that is also, you know, the Western world's best option. It's just that we have become so stifled by the idea that of dualism, that there's a mind and there's a body, that whenever we talk about emotions or about human experience, we do so only on the level where we can categorize and put names to whatever we experience. And we can do that to a lot of things, without a doubt, but there are limits to what we can label when it comes to human experience. And sometimes just being exposed or being in a situation where you can experience something, or being placed in a story where those labels aren't available, it's a great way of dealing with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wonder, can we make a science of shifting perspection and changing story?
I mean, so far the greatest science we have for that is virtual reality. You know, virtual reality for stroke patients learning how to walk again. People who have severe PTSD, phobias, exposure training. And what is exposure training but experience? The sad thing is that we're not good storytellers anymore.
Yeah.
That was how we entertained each other. That is how we taught one another valuable lessons that, you know, couldn't be passed down by, you know, doing you know, manual tasks alone. And we have lost that storytelling capability, and we've exchanged it with entertainment. And now, luckily, entertainment has caught up to that ability, which, you know, is to tell stories, and that's through VR.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what storytelling capacity we have, or maybe identity, is kind of perverted through social media. Not that it's bad, but it's something that's never tested continuously in a social structure.
Yeah.
And I think that creates that disconnect with the true self. And I think there's a lot of anxiety, pain that comes from that alone, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. Man, I have a hard time sometimes coming to grips with the person I think people see me as on social media. You know?
Yeah, because it's your idealized self, which is good. You're putting out what you want, who you want to become. But yeah, it's real life. What this does, it is in real time, constantly giving you feedback and testing you, and
Hmm.
people calling you out.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so far removed on social media. You don't have that instant feedback.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, you don't even get the instant feedback of sharing yourself in a situation where you feel observed. You're, it's not observation that you don't feel observed when you post things on social media. You feel either more or less gratified. You know, um,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I'll be honest. I don't know if I could share the things that I share on social media in front of other people. To be honest,
Me neither. Me
like, I don't
I
know.
feel
Like,
more comfortable sharing it to close people to me on social media than in person.
yeah, I agree. It's weird.
How fucked up is that?
It's pretty fucked up. Do you feel
uh,
that you sometimes feel like you need to catch up with your online avatar?
yeah, I mean, it's almost I feel like it's not a mask, but a shield I could wear.
Huh.
And I'm kind of deeper inside of that. But I think it helps. I think it could be used to help
Yeah,
bridge.
yeah.
If that outside shield goes inward into the
Hmm.
more vulnerable, intimate part, and maybe it
Yeah,
could help pull it out to light, or it could just hide it even more. So I think it depends how you use it.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, like I've taken a pretty long break from social media now. I haven't posted anything in quite some time.
And I
And
noticed that it builds
yeah,
a mystique.
I
I
think
see you working.
that's exactly what I'm going for. That's my new online persona is Mystique from X-Men. Uh,
Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. Yeah, no, I'm gonna try to get back in the game and try to post a bit more frequently. But I'm just trying to understand, like, uh, I guess I'm trying to understand how I've been affected by it. You know,
How do you feel you've been affected by it?
I think that there are certain nuances of, or parts of my personality that I don't quite understand. I'm not fully aware of, and these small tidbits they get kind of people put a spotlight on those things, and that's how they often describe me is to focus on these elements that I'm not even aware of, and then I feel like I kind of have to catch up with that when in fact maybe I don't know if it's that I'm not ready or if I don't feel that it's a part of me.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I
I'll,
and I think I also feel like a pressure to perform, you know, which I don't want to.
John, this is all just a curse of your high level intellect and self reflection.
Or uh, my
Ignorance is
existential.
bliss, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm just gonna have to hang out more with Uncle Weck. He can he can merge me
It,
with a machine.
yeah, he could show you how to take your ego, use it in third person, and just use it to guide the way. uh, Reem, before I go, you had a question what helped my hip. Really just the concept of torque and another tool or perception. the torque perception helped me. That's just me personally, anecdotally, and a few people I work with. But
You did
yeah,
that.
who knows?
You
Pain.
did that RC experience, right? When you focused on internal external torque and with the hover, was it?
Yeah, yeah, and and the odd thing about me is I got into FRC because of that hip issue, and oddly enough, after that injury, I had way more internal rotation, active internal rotation, and that did not. That actually made it feel worse when I was training that, and yeah, I realized I just could not. I had an opposite torque on that side always, and it was creating this torsional thing. But yeah, hopefully the language in that gets researched more, and yeah, who knows? Well, cool, John. I gotta get going. Thank you so much for this chat. Can we do it again sometime
Yeah.
soon?
Yes, I would love to. Matthew, I don't have the. I'm follically impaired. I cannot grow a full man shoe. Yeah, let's do another live soon. It was good chatting.
Yes. All right, brother.
See you soon, man.
See you on the algorithm.